there, I'm Danny Flex and welcome to the latest edition of Seconds Out Reflections. We're usually here every Monday at 4:30 PM to look back on the boxing action of the previous weekend. But there's a few changes, not least of which this being a day late this week. You'll be watching this on a Tuesday rather than a Monday because we had a few issues after the interview with Frank Warren yesterday in terms of getting the content up. And that caused me to not get home until way past the 4:30 time when we usually put reflections out. So I made the decision based on my own sanity to delay it until today. Hope you don't mind. Another thing I hope you don't mind, and you haven't really got a choice if you're going to continue to watch this, is that I also left my tripod in the back of my boss's car last night, which means that I am back filming on the rusty old webcam. Rusty is a metaphor, shoddy unfortunately is not. But until I get the tripod back, I can't really make it work with the camera. So hopefully normal service will be resumed. Now, all the pleasantries, or rather unpleasantries in this case, out the way. This week, with boxing coming back at the weekend, and we will hear more about that on WARREN on Thursday, and obviously Seconds Out's coverage from Cardiff as well. I'm going to reflect on the Fury Whyte purse bids, but I'm going to take a slightly different angle because I think my colleague John Houston is talking more about the purse bids themselves and the heavyweight landscape as it now stands. I want to talk a little bit about Bob Arum, head of Top Rank, of course, and Frank Warren, head of Queensberry Promotions. And this being their latest kind of victory against the odds, if you like, for two senior citizens of the boxing scene. It's harder to say than I was anticipating. And how they've managed to kind of stay alive and stay relevant as boxing has moved on. Because if you spend a lot of time on social media or amongst casual fans, you think that in this country, certainly Eddie Hearn and Matchroom are the only ticket going. And while they've done fantastic things for the sport, particularly during their long and fruitful period in partnership with Sky Sports, they haven't done it alone. And Warren is still very much part of the scene, and just shows with this latest victory in the purse bids that he remains relevant. He's got, not only has he won the rights to stage what will be, I would imagine, the biggest British fight of the year so far when it takes place, but also has Daniel Dubois in a mandatory position for the WBA regular title, which if he wins against Trevor Bryan, I know that's just been called to negotiations, he will then become the mandatory for the WBA super title, currently held by Alexander Usyk. He's managed to manoeuvre Joe Joyce into the WBO #1 position, waiting, of course, for the same man, Usyk, or Joshua, if he manages to defeat Usyk in their rematch, if it happens. A lot of ifs, as we've come to know with the heavyweight scene. But Warren could very well be 1 or 2 fights away from controlling pretty much the entirety of the heavyweight division, a bit like a modern-day Don King. And Don King's still involved as the promoter of Trevor Bryan, but didn't have quite enough space on the masthead for him. No, not really. It's more that Warren, in association to an extent with Arum, are the ones that won the Fury Whyte purse bids. Now, Arum wasn't named as the promoter in those bids, but he is very much a part of it. He is Tyson Fury's exclusive US promoter. The fight will obviously take place in the UK, but Arum is expected, as Warren revealed yesterday, to play a hand in the promotion of this fight and also to appear at the media events surrounding it. And he will have had a lot to say about it because he will have told Warren what he expects the fight to do in the US on ESPN pay-per-view, and that would have factored into the budget that Warren then created to bid for the fight itself. So Arum's been involved every step of the way, I imagine. I know he's already talked about the winning of the bids since they happened, made some other comments, slightly detrimental ones about women's boxing, which, a lot of people weren't happy about, and I can understand why, particularly Michaela Mayer, if she's unhappy, given she was the first female fighter to headline a Top Rank show and an ESPN show. I can understand why she might be aggrieved by it. But Arum is very much at that age and stage of his career now. He's achieved so much already that he kind of just thinks, look, I'm old, who cares? I don't give a... and just, I'll say whatever I feel. And I think he gets forgiven probably a lot more than people who are younger probably would. But I guess that's one of the perks of getting old and being successful. But they are very much different attitudes, Arum and Warren. Arum, very much doesn't care what anyone thinks anymore, lets his kind of reputation speak for itself. I think Warren is still, to a large part, driven by not just the successes of others and how to kind of pull that back and to achieve parity or even, you know, go past them, but more so people writing him off, which has happened so many times. The split with Sky, of course, Warren then went on to create launch Box Nation, which had good fights for the large part for a number of years before it started to fade. Then rebounded with the BT deal, of course. Then he was written off once again, and he linked up with Tyson Fury, who's now the, you know, main attraction heavyweight in the world and one of the biggest stars in the world of boxing at any weight. So Warren's been written off so many times and keeps coming back, and I think it's just fuel to the fire. You know, a lot of people accuse Warren of being bitter, and he can certainly come across that way at times. But I think it's more that he likes people writing him off. He remembers coming into the sport on the unlicensed circuit and having to kind of usurp the cartel that was in existence at the time that kind of dominated British boxing, the likes of Mickey Duff and Jarvis Astaire and so on, and having to kind of fight them, to get his board license, then to get his shows on TV. And it's been a long, hard road. And then he's kind of seen some other young upstarts, in his perception, I guess, who've tried to do the same thing to him to kind of overthrow the existing you know, dominant force on the boxing scene here in the UK. And instead of kind of laying down or accepting the passing of time, if you like, in the way Mickey Duff eventually had to, Warren stayed in and fought. He's adapted. You know, people often accuse him of being a dinosaur, but by launching his own, you know, Box Nation boxing only service, he's kind of ahead of his time. And in many ways, he has adapted to the changing situation of boxing. Every time it seems like he's down and out, he finds a new outlet or a new way to come back into the picture. And you kind of have to admire it, even if you criticise him for a number of things. And Warren's not perfect. I think he's relieved me of my duties on more than one occasion as a freelancer, I can tell you that much. So I haven't always been his biggest fan, but you have to admire him for the way he's a survivor. In the same way Mick Hennessy is a survivor, but to a greater degree and you know, with more success. You know, no disrespect to Mick, but I think that's fair to say. He's taken the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune to add a bit of Shakespeare to these vlogs, and just, you know, come back swinging. And you've got to admire that kind of bloody-minded belligerence, if you like. And then you've got Arum, who's a bit more kind of laid back and, you know, a bit more free with what he says, less cagey these days, certainly. But again, he's got that kind of fighting spirit, that refusal to be dominated or to be beaten. And you've got to like that, even if you don't agree with all his views, and I certainly don't. You've got to enjoy the fact that these two guys who are entering kind of Arum certainly entering the later stages of his career, and possibly Warren as well, getting one over on the younger guys and the promoters that many people expected to win these bids. You know, it's not the biggest victory of either of their careers, to be fair. They've both had bigger moments in the spotlight, but it's just one more kind of shot in the arm, shot back at the critics. And I am impressed with them for that. I mean, it's not over yet, not by a long chalk. We don't know what Dillian Whyte is planning to do going forward. But as of right now, it's not a bad time to be Frank Warren or Bob Arum. And I think the longer they kind of stay within boxing, the better for boxing in general. I think they had some colour, they had some character. And yeah, a bit of old school kind of machinations and manoeuvrings. But ultimately, I think that kind of juxtaposition between them and some of the promoters that have come after them and that have arguably been influenced by them is only good for the sport as a whole. But obviously, I want to hear what you guys think. Let me know what you thought of Warren and Arum. Warren really, but Arum's influence was there in winning the purse bids. But just generally about these two great survivors of years past and how they've managed to stay going in a shark-infested industry like boxing. Let me know what you think, and I'll respond to some of the comments. I'll be back hopefully on Thursday, 4:30 PM for FLEXpectations, looking ahead to Eubank Jr. against Williams, among other fights. And then hopefully Monday rather than Tuesday next week for ReFLEXions at the same time. Thanks very much for watching, and I will see you all soon. Cheers.